before we get started this afternoon, I'm just going to share a few notices about some of the things that we've got coming up over the next little while. The big thing, our next event, and it's an in-person one. So you have to leave your Zoom behind. If you are interested in the symposium on the 26th of June is called Valuing Seaside Heritage. Hopefully you've seen it advertised through our mailings, and it's on our website and on social media, but it's going to be a whole day of speakers talking about current seaside heritage cases and some from the past, and sharing best practice and experience. So it should be a really fascinating day, and that is happening at the wonderful location of Saltdean Lido, just outside Brighton. So there's the opportunity almost for a swim, as well as a symposium and lots of interesting seaside heritage talks and networking, of course. So do book on for that. That is our next thing on the 26th of June. And as part of that whole weekend event, we are staying in Brighton and hope that you might want to too. So on the 27th of June, we're running some walking tours. We've got a stroll around the Royal Pavilion area with Dr. Sue Berry, who is an expert on all things Georgian Brighton. And then we've also got a walking tour along the cliffs towards Saltdean, looking at the modernist history there and the development of that area between the wars with Professor Fred Gray. So I've been on that tour this week and it is fab. So do sign up for that one if you're interested in joining us. Then on the 8th of July, we have got our next seminar, just the same format as this, but it is a fundraising event. So we are going to charge you the very reasonable price of £5 to listen to 3 talks about sort of Agatha Christie themes, because it's the 50th anniversary of her death this year. And so we have someone from Burr Island Hotel trying to tempt you to that beautiful Art Deco building in Devon with lots of beautiful pictures. The Caroline Crampton from the She Done It podcast. And we also have a speaker about the Torquay Pavilion, which has been recently been taken over by Torquay Council to be restored, and hopefully with a big Agatha Christie exhibit in there. So it's going to be a really good seminar, and we do all of these usually for free, but there are running costs for the Seaside Heritage Network, so we would really appreciate your support on the 8th of July. It's not much more than the cost of a coffee, so please do sign up and come and join us for some murder at the seaside. I think that's it for now, so let's kick on with this afternoon's look at Fairgrounds by the Sea. We're going to start with Dr. Allan Brodie, who I'm sure you're all very familiar with because he is a founder member of the Seaside Heritage Network, and he's often popping up chairing these sessions. He was previously the seaside expert at Historic England. He's now a visiting fellow at Bournemouth University. He's written lots of books, which hopefully you've got on your shelves at home. And he's going to talk to us about Britain's amusement park heritage. So take it away, Allan.
This is a photograph of me with a mystery man on the Scenic Railway at Margate. We're just on the track there, and you can see where the cars ride on the rails inside this sort of trough. And you may observe how rickety it was. I'll come back to that slide towards the end, because this is at the heart of what I'm talking about today. So in 2006, Southport Pleasureland closed, and some of the rides were removed and ended up at Blackpool. But the iconic Cyclone wooden roller coaster of 1937 was examined by English Heritage, who decided not to list it, and therefore it was demolished in 2006. In contrast, in 2002, English Heritage had decided to list the Scenic Railway at Margate. That's the one with the blue arrow pointing at it. It dated from 1920 and was listed as Grade 2. So Grade 2 is kind of the standard listing for sort of 95% of the listed buildings in England. Margate's Scenic Railway is a type of roller coaster. where the trains run on tracks set within effectively a channel. And scenic railways usually have scenery. So you can see Great Yarmouth in the 1960s, the cars ran through sort of alpine scenery. Margate was a scenic railway, but without scenery. It's just one of those quirks of the system. And what you need to look at from this slide is the two cool guys in the cars. They're the brakeman. So on the one on the left, he's behind the first group of passengers, and he's standing up in a black outfit, looking very cool and relaxed because he did this 50 times a day, and you can see him rather more clearly between the two cars there in Great Yarmouth. He's a vital part of the experience because if he has a heart attack, the cars can potentially crash off at the corner, so they literally do need to be braked. To prevent them sort of coming off the tracks. Now, 2002, the Scenic Railway at Dreamland was listed, and therefore, when Dreamland as a park closed at the end of 2006, this is the scene that we took a photograph when I was in English Heritage from Arlington House, and that was all that was left of Dreamland. And the Scenic Railway had survived and was still there because it was a listed building. However, I think it was 1 year later, April 2008, there was an arson attack which destroyed the heart of the Scenic Railway. And that's a later aerial photograph. And this is where I came in because English Heritage got an application to consider upgrading it from grade 2, so a standard sort of listed building, to a grade 2 star, namely a building of considerable national significance. And so I was asked to do some research to put it into context. And so I just want to take you very briefly through the research that I did. So what I did was I looked at the background to sort of amusement park history, and this meant looking at things like the traditional fairs that had gone on in England, and also the pleasure gardens that were in London originally and then spread out to seaside resorts. And this was some of the general sort of British background to the development of amusement parks. And one of the key ones is Rakes Hall in Blackpool because it was a pleasure garden that had things like dancing and fireworks and music. But gradually, it was founded in the early 1870s, but over the next 25 years, it began to add rides. So you can see beneath the ballroom, there was a circular railway, there's the tricycle track, and at the very top, you can see a switchback railway. That's the earliest sort of form of roller coaster. And so just literally, what, 2, 3, 4 miles away from Blackpool Pleasure Beach, you've got a proto sort of amusement park, i.e., a pleasure gardens that have rides have been added to it. And of course, the immediate sort of source for Blackpool Pleasure Beach was the parks at Coney Island. That's a sort of view of Coney Island sort of at its peak there after the war. The ride in the middle there is the terrifying parachute jump, where you were sort of hoisted up to the top of the tower and then dropped. And what became clear was that to understand Margate, I had to understand the whole sort of setup of English, specifically in this case, but in fact, British sort of fairground heritage. And it became clear to me that the key site, nationally and internationally, was Blackpool. When I sort of began to study it, I worked out there were the pre-1939, I took that as the cut-off date because that would be easier to get things listed. It had Sir Hiram Maxim's captive flying machine, which I'll show in a minute, the River Caves, the Big Dipper roller coaster, the Nickelodeon Streak, which was formerly the roller coaster, 1933, Blue Flyer, which was formerly the Little Dipper, Zipper Dipper, 1934. The Grand National, a twin track roller coaster, 1935. There were also Gallopers dating from 1919, Noah's Ark 1922, a ghost train from the 30s, and a railway, the Pleasure Beach Express miniature railway. So crammed into this one site, in amongst all the sort of modern rides, was this extraordinary sort of heritage. And what I did was I looked at the story of this heritage right back to the time before the Pleasure Beach existed as an entity. And The first ride that survives on the site is the 1904 Sir Hiram Maxim's captive flying machine, which you can see in that photograph from 1905, and there's a picture of it there on the right. An amazing sort of flying sort of circular swing ride. And then the River Caves, which is the blue arrow, it's a bit like the Disney It's a Small World After All, where you go in cars along rivers through sort of lit sort of tableaus inside the attraction. And I'm just going to go through a few pictures just to show you how the site has developed. This is 1920, and just below South Pier you can see a white building, and that's the original casino of 1913. And there you can see the 1909 Velvet Coaster on the right-hand side there. That's 1925, and the big roller coaster in the foreground is the Big Dipper. 1928, you see the Pleasure Beach is now very much closed off. You can see the fence along the bottom there. You've still got the casino at the top, and just beyond it is the amazing open air pool of 1923 between the Blackpool Pleasure Beach and Blackpool South Pier. And so the Velvet Coaster and the Big Dipper are there, where gradually rides are being added. This is 1948. I should have said before, but at the top left-hand side, the 1913 casino is gone, and that lovely circular building of 1939 is the new casino, the one that survives today. That's 1972, and so all those historic rides are in there, but you can also see there's a sort of network of more recent rides. And that was 2006. I got the Historic England photographers sort of took those pictures for me. And around about 2007, when I was visiting Blackpool Pleasure Beach, I went round with the American editor of effectively the trade magazine in America for amusement parks, who couldn't believe what he was seeing. He saw more historic rides in that one morning when we walked around Blackpool Pleasure Beach than you would see in any country in the world apart from the United States. And I mean any country. That's how big and how important Blackpool Pleasure Beach is. And it's not just about the rides at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. In the 1930s, Joseph Emberton went through and sort of gave everything a kind of an Art Deco gloss, and still a lot of that survives today. And you can see some of the Art Deco sort of finish in this photograph taken from the top of the casino looking out to the various rides. So the outcome of the research that I did for English Heritage was that I put in a report saying that Margate Scenic Railway was of international significance, but then a third of it is missing. In their wisdom, English Heritage went, oh, well, we'll go for the first bit. It's of international significance. And so they changed it to a grade 2 star listing. I also put in recommendations about Blackpool and ended up with 5 of the rides at Blackpool being listed. Great Yarmouth Scenic Railway was listed. 2 water splash rides were listed in parks like Kettering and Scarborough and Hull. And to explain why we were listing fairground rides, I wrote a thing called Historic Amusement Parks and Fairground Rides, which is a brief sort of introduction to the subject. I also did a web page some years later for English Heritage called All the Fun of the Fair, and that's in the top left-hand corner, and did a chapter of a book on amusement, the amusement park, history, culture, and heritage of pleasure. So it was quite a productive piece of research, and both in terms of publication and improving knowledge about the subject, but also about adding protection. And so to end where I began, that's me in the background, a few kilos lighter and a little bit younger. And the man in the front, also pretending that we're on the Scenic Railway, was the poor engineer who was given a large sum of money to restore the Scenic Railway at Margate, and who was almost in tears at the end of it because it was going to be such a major task. But it was restored. It did reopen. It was the heart of the new Dreamland Pleasure Park. And unfortunately now it has closed, and it doesn't look like that ride will be running any time in the future. But all these fairground rides in Blackpool, well worth a visit, and just enjoy the history of them as well as all the thrill and excitement.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Alan. Yeah, we've seen a lot on a sort of social media and various things about the closure of the Dreamland roller coaster, and obviously that's a cause for concern for people locally. So I'm sure there'll be people who are worried about that, but we don't know what's happening with that, unfortunately, because there was somebody putting that in the chat. But we're going to move on now from away from Blackpool and Margate to sunny Southport. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Serena Silcock Prince, who is the operations manager for Silcocks Leisure Group in Southport, who's going to tell us her personal relationship and story of amusements, about her family heritage and the family's move from travelling fairs into running leading seaside attractions in Southport. So Serena, thank you very much, and take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, I'm Serena Silcock Prince, and I'm the 5th generation of the Silcock family. I know that Silcocks is a name synonymous with fairgrounds, so I think a lot of people will have heard of us, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a personal take on it. So the first slide here is, this is my family. This is at our site Funland, which is in Southport. And like I said, I'm the 5th generation, and that's my father, who it's Herbert Silcock Jr. We still say Junior, even though grandfather Herbert Silcock Sr. did pass away. And there's my mum, my nephew, and my sister, and we all work at the Funland site. So it all began with my great-great-grandfather, Edward Silcock. This is actually not a photo of him. This is a picture of the wireworks. So the wireworks in Warrington was where he started. That was where he worked before he came up with the idea of a coconut shy, which he started just outside the wireworks, and he charged people an old penny, whatever the money was then. And that was where he got his love for amusements. So he did this, packed in his job at the wireworks, and he had this coconut show. And that's how it all started, from a humble coconut. So this is the first ride that Silcocks got. So it's the High Flyer. This is around 1890. So this was the first ride. If you can see, it was everything was hard work. It was very manual. You know, all the machinery was obviously hard work. So I just wanted to just mention that it's not only my paternal family, the Silcocks, also my maternal family are from not travelling show people, but based in Pleasureland. So my maternal family were the Jacksons. So my great-grandmother, Elizabeth Jackson, she acquired the Cafe on Stilts in Southport. If you can see there, that's the pier. And I think this explains why the pier is so important to me. So this is my great-grandmother on my maternal side. So this just explains both the Silcocks and the Jacksons. So this was my great-grandmother's cafe on stilts, which was iconic. People still talk about it now. So my great-grandmother was one of the first women to actually have a business in Southport, which is quite remarkable. And this site now is where, if anyone knows Southport, this is where Pizza Hut actually stands now. So this was the Cafe on Stilts, and the beach then came up further. It's Ocean Plaza now, but the beach actually came up to the Cafe on Stilts, and there'd be donkey rides, and I do remember that myself. And obviously next to the pier, and if you come further up, that's where the Funland site is, just over the bridge. So this is my grandmother. So my mum's mum, my Nana G, and she actually came up with the idea creamier ices. This was on Pleasureland in Southport, and this is her and her sister. So this is Miriam and Sylvia, so my great aunt, and they created this business, creamier ices, which is quite remarkable, really, and very entrepreneurial. So I'm very proud of this heritage. So yeah, so my nana also acquired the Lakeside Miniature Railway, which you can see still operates today. This is Southport Pier. So in those days, women weren't allowed bank accounts. So she actually, she had the money, but to actually get a bank account, she had to take her brother-in-law to open a bank account. So I think that always is, I've done a lot of talks on International Women's Day and speeches about kind of my heritage. And I think this is quite remarkable that even in, not that long ago, my grandmother, she couldn't open a bank account. So things like this spur me on, and I tell my daughter about this as well. So I did, Dr. Anya is also here, knows about this. The plight of the pier is very important for me. I think I've just explained the heritage of Southport Pier and how important it is, not only to the family, not only to the business, but also from a personal point of view. And we recently all worked together, the Pier Society, Dr. Anya helped, Stand Up for Southport, our MP, we all worked together. And mainly it was people power, that we had a big meeting in the Pier restaurant, which we own in Southport. And we all voiced our want of the fact that we wanted the pier open. If you know anything about Southport Pier, it's the longest iron pier, and the second longest pier. So it's very important to the town. It's iconic, and it means a lot to the people. So we had a meeting in the Pier restaurant. I thought about 40 people had turned up, but actually 400 people turned up, as well as BBC Radio Merseyside. And I'm here with Kev Dwala from BBC Radio Merseyside. And it just kind of, Andrew Brown did a poll on Stand Up for Southport, and over 97% of people wanted the pier open. So this was very important for Southport, and we've now got the funding. 20 million has been pledged by the government, and I was only on site yesterday with the chartered surveyors and the AE Yates team, and everything's going ahead. So that's wonderful news. So so in the 1960s, my grandfather, Herbert Silcock Senior, he came to Southport Pleasureland just for a season, and then loved it so much they never left. So from the 1960s, the Silcock family had rides on Southport Pleasureland, and were there till probably late 80s, and then we moved on to amusement arcades, and bought amusement arcades in Neville Street, and then the Funland site, which is where next to the pier on the promenade. But I remember being on the Pleasureland when I was little, because obviously my father was there, and also my mother had, her mum had ice cream shops, rock shops. So I was very much brought up on the fairground when I was younger, so very proud of that. So this is the iconic Speedway ride. This was my father's ride, and he ran it for many, many years. It's anyone you speak to in Southport will tell you memories of the Speedway. In fact, Dad said more couples have met on the Speedway than any dating site. So so that's and it was always playing the latest music, the latest records, and Dad has got the most amazing record collection that he's still got today. So my mum and dad actually met on the fairground, if I explained it correctly. Granddad came in 1960s to Pleasureland. They had the Dodgems, the Whirl Around, the Paratrooper, lots of big rides. They brought the music and the lights. And mum's family had the ice cream, the rock shops, the joke shops. So it was very much a family affair. So mum and dad met when they were younger, and they were friends, and then romance blossomed on the fairground. So this is a newspaper article of mum and dad, sweethearts of the Speedway. They actually celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary next year, which is incredible. So this is some lovely memories. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on this story. So this is, if everyone probably recognises L.S. Lowry. So L.S. Lowry painted a series of 4 paintings of the Daisy Newt Fair. So this is Daisy Newt. It was painted in 1953. And if you look in the background, you can see Silcock's Thriller, which was one of the Silcocks rides. My grandfather, Herbert Silcock, was actually here, was there when L.S. Lowry was painting the paintings. And it's a bit of, well, it's a true story, but it's a family story that L.S. Lowry actually offered one of these paintings to my grandfather, to which he replied, look at those stick men, that'll never catch on. And he didn't buy the painting. So I think he was offered it for £50, which obviously was a lot of money in those days. And the actual painting now hangs in 10 Downing Street and is worth millions. So I was actually invited to 10 Downing Street. It wasn't to see the painting. I actually got an MP Hero Award for my community work and the things that I do in Southport. I like to do a lot of community work. I feel like I've got a bit of a platform in Southport. So I'm the Madam President of the British Legion, which I help out there. Also, I help Queen's Court Hospice and anything that I can do to help the community, because I love Southport so much. And I think, Dr. Anya asked me to do this speech, and I think it was a nice thing for me to do to explain to people why I'm so passionate about Southport and the community and why I love it so much. So as I headed into 10 Downing Street, I knew the L.S. Lowry was there, but I didn't actually know where it was. So when I walked up the staircase, it was quite a moment to see my name and to see the painting. And it was also a talking point, which was something nice that I could share with everybody. So this is where I am today. This is where the family is. We've got businesses in Blackpool and in Southport, but I run the Silcocks Funland site with the Pier Restaurant and the Carousel. And I've worked here for 27 years. I went to college and studied art history. And then I decided to work for the family business, which, is rewarding. It's changing a lot. I think, as everybody knows, seaside businesses have had a struggle, but we're moving with the times and we're keeping up to date. And we still have a lot of families come and see us. And hopefully now the pier's getting opened, we'll have even more people, come and visit us. So this is the Carousel. It was actually purchased in 1990 by my grandfather from the Bottom brothers, but it was built in 1901. So we say in the reign of Queen Victoria, but it was actually just after. It was 1901. So it's been entertaining families for many, many, many years. And what's lovely to see is that we see grandparents returning, with their grandchildren and say, well, we brought our children on this ride. It's a beacon in Southport. It's used, photographed many, many, many times. And we have lots of people who have weddings and want to do wedding photographs. So it's a real symbol of Southport. So very proud of the Carousel. And every horse has a member of the family's name painted on it, as well as family friends. So yes, you should come along and have a look if you're in Southport. This is one of my favourite photographs. Like I said, we have lots of people who want to photograph the Carousel, which I always welcome. But this one's particularly beautiful, the light at night. So I just wanted to show you this. So this is actually the Dad's Scamel. It was found in a field. It was abandoned. There's such a long story about the Scamel. It's been in the family for many years. So Dad lovingly restored it with the help of a lot of people, who work with us. We've got a wonderful team at Funland. A lot of people have actually been with us for many, many, many years who've come from the fairground. I mean, we've got people who've worked with us for 30, 40 years. I always say our business, we work together with people and we're all like a big family. And you either love it or you hate it. You're either there forever or you only last a season. So this is the Scamel lovingly restored by my father, it's beautiful. Actually, Graham Booth did all the painting. I think people will know Graham Booth is a wonderful sign writer and a family friend. And it's all gold leaf and it's just incredible. So it's brought out for special occasions. Here it is with its corgi toy. There's actually a corgi toy made, which we managed to find and purchase. So I thought this was quite interesting. So this is me with my community work that I do. I'm actually here with the Mayor of Sefton, June Burns, who's been a fantastic mayor. So like I said, I have a bit of a platform in Southport and I like to use it to help the town. It's not only for business, it's also because I love the town so much. So I just try my best to help the community. And this is the Gavioli organ, which is my dad's. I think it was built, it's definitely German. It was built around 1850. It's been restored. It looks beautiful. We actually brought it out for the first time in over 15 years for the last year in June for the Armed Forces Day. So it's here in all its glory in the front of Funland. So it plays beautifully. So if you ever get a chance to kind of come and see it, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a wonderful piece of heritage in our family. So yeah, that's it. That's it really. Just wanted to kind of explain a little bit, not just about the Silcock family, but also about my maternal family and Southport. So yeah, I'm here still at Silcocks Funland after 27 years and hope to be here for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Serena. That was brilliant. And well, you can see on the screen, you're getting lots of love for all of the work that you're doing and the profile raising in Southport. And it is really fantastic, isn't it? When someone like you who does have this platform really takes advantage of it to sing the praises of the place they love. And there's evidently lots of Southport fans in the audience. So thank you ever so much for sharing that. Really, really interesting. I expect there'll be some questions at the end, but if you want to continue putting them in the chat, we'll move on to Anya Chapman's presentation now. Anya is another founder member of the Seaside Heritage Network. I'm sure you'll all know her. She's also a principal academic in tourism management at Bournemouth University. She's usually behind the scenes, keeping us all together and going. But today she is going to actually give us a talk from her experience, because prior to joining academia, Anya worked as a visitor attractions manager, spending a significant part of her career managing amusement arcades for Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So she's got lots of first-hand experience to draw upon, and she's going to tell us about what's happened to Seaside Funfairs recently. Thank you, Anya.
Thanks, Catherine. And it's lovely to join the speakers tonight. I'm going to try and not step on too many toes. I think I've sidestepped Blackpool and try to focus on some of the other Seaside Funfairs. I've started with I guess quite a controversial title, because we all know that obviously funfairs and amusement parks have been, I guess, a highlight of a visit to the seaside since the end of the 19th century. And many of these fairs developed from the stalls and the menageries and the side shows. But as the technology developed at the start of the 20th century, rides such as the flying machines, which Allan has already mentioned, and the switchback railways and the water chutes became really the star attractions at many of our seaside resorts. Now, by the mid-20th century, seaside funfairs included our coasters, our wheels, our beautiful carousels, which Serena's just mentioned, the river caves, alongside the game stalls and the shows and the amusement arcades and the food stalls. But by the end of the 20th century, seaside funfairs were at risk. And this really is what I want to focus on this evening, some of the challenges faced by these attractions. And to have a look at two examples, I'm actually going to return to Southport, I'm afraid. So the Southport lovers, I'm coming back. Okay, but first, a question for you. What's the difference between funfairs, amusement parks, and theme parks? And I'm using the terms interchangeably tonight. Well, if we think about it, a funfair like this Rainbow Park in Hunstanton is usually made up of rides and attractions, and they're owned and operated by different operators or different showmen. Now, these fun fairs, they can be temporary, they can be travelling, or like the Rainbow Park in Hunstanton, which has been owned by the Roper family, I think, since the 1960s, but has got lots of different operators on the site. They can be permanent. Now, amusement parks are slightly different. An amusement park is a term that started to be used in the UK from the 1970s onwards. And it's usually associated with a permanent attraction, and it's usually under single ownership, like the Pleasure Beach in Blackpool. Now, theme parks, thankfully, we don't find that many of them at the coast, okay? Here's a rather sorry example of the Crinkly Bottom or Blobby Land Park that was short-lived in Morecambe, literally for months in 1994. So these parks, the theme parks, are usually making an appeal to the family market. They've got some sort of thematic identity or maybe themed areas, and they operate usually as a closed park. What I mean by that is that you have to pay to get onto the park, whether it's a wristband or an entrance fee. And they've usually got, I guess, fairly high standards of service, cleanliness. They've been influenced by Disney. Now, I'm going to show you a map, okay, of the UK parks that are currently operating within the UK. Now, I'm sure that I will have missed some of the parks off here, and I think Duncan's going to share with you in the chat if you want to check this out. If you want to tell me in the chat, please do. Any parks that I've missed off, you can check out with the link in the chat now. But you'll notice, and I'm hoping that you can see the map, that I guess you find these parks, and I'm going to focus in mainly on England and Wales, in two key locations. One, round the coast, and two, on, I guess, the main transport routes, whether it be motorways or key areas of population where maybe you've got airports and train stations and motorways and so on. Now, probably the last new park to appear on this map was Legoland Windsor, which was opened in 1996, although there'd been a park there, Windsor Safari Park, for a while before that. Now, there is another park on this map that hasn't yet opened, and this is the proposed Universal project near Bedford. Now, this was announced back in 2012. It's been under various different operators at the moment. It's Universal, it's been Paramount. And the construction is due to commence this year to be open by 2031. We'll wait and see. However, I'm going to go back to the seaside. So after we've seen our map of our UK parks, I want to have a quick look at some of the current challenges faced by these parks, both at the seaside and elsewhere. And the first challenge I want to focus on is obviously the changing demographics of the population in the UK. Now, the key market for any type of park is going to be the family market. And as you can see in what used to be known as a population pyramid, but now kind of looks slightly more phallic, is that we've got an aging population. And we can see the dip towards the bottom of that says that our family market is shrinking. Okay, so this is a key issue for our parks in the UK. The second issue, obviously, is weather. Now, our parks, predominantly outdoor attractions, they're usually seasonal, from usually around Easter to maybe the first bonfire night weekend in November. As a former operator, the ideal weather, everybody says, oh, it's sunshine. Yes and no. Okay. Yes, you want sunshine at the beginning of the day. You want everybody to come on to the park. And then you want it to absolutely pour down from about 2:30 for maybe an hour and a half. You don't want people to go home, but you want people to go inside to your arcades, your food courts, and spend some money. And then you want the sun to come back out so that they carry on having a great day and get value for money. And then at around about 7 o'clock, you want it to absolutely pour down again and to continue to pour down so that you can close the park early and everybody can go home and save on some wages. So the weather is a fundamental issue, always has been, for these types of attractions. The third issue is what I call the Disney effect. Now, as more and more people have been to Disney's 6 theme parks now around the globe, they've got more and more used to the Disney standard of doing things. That clean, sanitized, modern, safe, standardized, very well organized park. And to some extent, now when you visit any park in the UK, you kind of expect the same standards. And some of them live up to it, some of them don't, I'm afraid. Another issue, and this is one that's been going on for quite some time, is the rising insurance premiums and the increase in compensation culture, focus on health and safety, lots of testing, even to open a ride. And also, when something does go wrong, there's a lot of media coverage on any incidents. This was a recent one over in Barry a couple of months ago, where the train jumped the track. Unfortunately, they came out with a forklift truck to get the customers off, and somebody stood there with a camera. So not a good look. Okay. Number 5. Property development. So parks located at the seaside, usually on prime seafront real estate. Property developers always have been keen to develop land for housing, for retail, office, leisure space, you name it. And this was especially evident up to the 2008 financial crisis. 13 parks around the UK coast closed between 1998 and 2008. The first one of these being Pleasurama at Ramsgate, which closed in 1998 for the development of nothing at the time, but subsequently, since 2020, the Royal Sands luxury residential apartments have stood on this site. And last but not least, in terms of issues, we have the cost of living. And of course, the fact that we all have decreased disposable income now, but of course the costs to actually operate and manage these parks have gone up. I think one of the most contentious costs that has been discussed most recently has been the Pleasure Beach. I guess because of its long heritage as an open park. It's been a closed pay on entry park for quite some time now, and the current cost to get in there is around about £50. There's also been a lot of debate this year that you can now get onto the park without the wristband, but I think they're charging £18 just to get onto the park now without any rides. So this has been quite contentious in terms of, well, how much money can people spend on these attractions? So those are the key issues, which means that since 1998, and here comes another map for you folks, there have been 23 parks which have closed around the UK. And you can see that out of those 23, 22 of them have been at the coast. It means that there's been an almost 40% decline in parks in the UK since 1998. And I think Duncan is going to share the map with you. Again, if I've missed any off, please let me know. The most recent to close was Coney Beach in Porthcawl in October last year. The site is being earmarked for, you've guessed it, residential and retail use. So I want to very quickly have a look at a couple of examples, a couple of case studies, if you like. And I'm afraid I'm going to go back to Southport, okay? So Funfair rides and stalls, as Serena's already talked about, have been on the Pleasureland site in Southport since the early 20th century. There was Funfair rides there before, but not on this site. In 1981, Blackpool Pleasure Beach bought the lease of the site and operated many of the park's rides, not exclusively, because Silcocks was still there, and some other operators were there on the park, but it was still classed as a fun fair. We still had lots of different operators on this site. So, as I said, it started as a fun fair, and I don't know whether you can see this image very clearly, but we've got a carousel, we've got some game stalls in the back, and in the very back, we've got that 1937 Cyclone roller coaster, which Allan mentioned to you previously. We fast forward almost 50 years, and this is a photo taken pretty much from the same spot. By this point, Blackpool Pleasure Beach had invested in the park. There was still some of the original operators there and the tenants, but these were mainly limited to the stalls, which is what you can see in this picture. But if you look closely at the first picture, you can see that the stalls are pretty much the same, okay? You can see the kind of diamond edges to the stalls. And then if we fast forward another 7 years, by 2004, Blackpool Pleasure Beach owned the entire site, okay? All the tenants and other operators had gone by then. And so they decided to transform it into a theme park. Now, the stalls have gone. You can see this is taken from the same location as the second photo. You can see that entrance gate in the corner of it, but you can still see the Cyclone roller coaster in the back. So a theme park, really? And here it was, Pleasureland, the theme park, a Moroccan-based theme park. And you think, Moroccan-based, what sort of theme is that? But obviously, there's a lot of sand in Southport. It was free. And so they went with Morocco, okay? Get the Casablanca Family Entertainment Centre, the Lost Dinosaurs of the Sahara, Abdullah's Dilemma, Marrakesh Express. They even had a mascot called Ali Baba, okay? And it was good, okay? There was a lot of investment in 1999. They had the traumatizer, and you could see that the visitor numbers were good. Until 2005, when the visitor numbers get decimated. And this was when they started charging to enter the park. And then after that, you'll see there's no data. And that is because in September 2006, Blackpool Pleasure Beach claimed the park was no longer financially viable and set about stripping the park or demolishing its assets. And some of the pictures that you can see here, the Joy Wheel in the Funhouse, I believe, went to Dreamland. The Haunted Inn and the Caterpillar ride in the background there under its tent, again, transferred to Dreamland. The River Caves and the River Cave boats, which again transferred to Dreamland. And in the background, you can see King Solomon's Mines, which was transferred from Morecambe, which had closed back in 1999. We have our cyclone trains. We have the Casablanca FEC and what the staff used to effectively call Jeffrey lying on the floor. And the demolished cyclone track. Okay, wasn't listed as Allan rightly identified earlier. So by the end, the council, Sefton Council, spent £350,000 making the site safe, and all for the chase of a dream, a theme park, and the dream didn't manifest. The last case study I want to have a look at, and I'm going to blast through this. Ocean Beach Mill. It stood there since 1954. There had been rides on the site for longer than that, but by the 80s and 90s, Rhyl was in decline as a resort. It had lost many of its attractions, including the Victoria Pier, the open-air pool, the Royal Floral Hall. And so a plan was needed and a strategy was developed in order to kind of diversify Ryl's, I guess, socio-demographic profile. And what they wanted to do was kind of pivot away from the visitor economy and towards more sort of residential, office, and so on. And the key target for this was the site of Ocean Beach. And so they said, okay, let's get rid of Ocean Beach and we're going to redevelop it for high-end residential, retail, and so on. So, of course, at the end of 2006, Ocean Beach closed for the final time and it was demolished in 2007. And the new 85 million Ocean Plaza development would consist of, as I said, those luxury apartments, conference centre, hotel, retail, restaurants. But the developers went into administration after the financial crash of 2008. And so Ryl's Ocean Beach site sat derelict for almost 10 years as developers and plans came and went in the post-financial crisis recession until 2017. And this is what you'll find on the site today. Marina Quay Retail Park opened with the anchor star tenants of Farm Foods, Pound World and Greggs Bakers. So much for Ryl's diversification and socio-economic development. So, the 42 parks remaining in the UK face a continuing combination of threats and challenges, no more so than those at the coast. Next time you're at a resort, play the hook-a-duck, ride the carousel, go on the helter-skelter, keep the parks thriving into the 21st century. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Anya. That was a really fantastic run through of where we are now and a really good explanation of all those problems facing them. Look at the love hearts and everything you're getting there. And absolutely, I mean, at the Seaside Heritage Network, we are all about going to the seaside, using these places. Seaside Heritage cannot be maintained without our help. We need to actually put our money where our mouths, what's the word? Money where our, whatever. Yeah, mouth is. I thought that, and then I thought that sounds funny. Anyway, money where your mouth is. So let's all head to the seaside and go and ride the roller coasters. Let's see if there are any questions. We've got 45 things in the chat, so we might be here a while, but hopefully, I think there's lots of comments, but generally good. I think we've got our forthcoming events. Definitely, please do check those out. Lots of people have rode the Cyclone, Big Dipper. Hopefully lots of these places that we've shown you this afternoon will be very well known to you, and particularly so at places like Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Very sad that so many of them have gone. Kimberly absolutely loves the carousel. Kimberly, you've been everywhere by the look of it. Anyone wants, Dan Thompson, thank you. If anybody wants a walk around Margate with Dreamland, a couple of other pleasure garden sites, let Dan know. That sounds superb. What's a lot of remedial work on the pier at Southport. Indeed, we've heard about that from Serena. Wonderful. Everything that's happening there now. What have we got? Have we got any actual questions? Would anybody like to ask anything? Sorry, it's taking me a while to go through these. Is Gulliver's World the closest to the coast in Warrington? I don't know. I presume that's a theme park, is it? Yeah. Robin Hill on the Isle of Wight has just reopened after being closed for a few years. Does that count as is that a theme park or a amusements? Eileen regularly went to Pleasurama as a child and teenager. It was a very sad day when it went. Same's true for the Rotunda at Folkestone, indeed. So the Folkestone had lots of amusements on the seafront, and those are all gone now. And Kimberly is full of praise for Southport's visitor facilities for people with disability issues. So that is very good to hear. Serena, there's a vote of confidence for you there. A lot of money has been spent in Whitley Bay in recent years. Listed Spanish City is beautifully done. Loss of the fun fair for a school was a big loss. Yeah, it's changing priorities, it seems, in a lot of these places, that the kind of local people and local government want something different. Richard R was the last non Pleasure Beach operator. I think that was at Pleasureland in Southport. Does anyone remember that Southport Pleasureland used to have a zoo next door to it? Serena does. Excellent.
Yeah, we used to own the zoo. I used to go there when I was younger. They were a lovely family, really wonderful people.
Okay, excellent. So it wasn't a figment of your imagination, Kimberly. It was there. Helen says, I'm on my way to Rill now. Spent many a childhood day at its fair. Poor Rill is not what it used to be. Anyone who's been there recently will know exactly what I mean. Great, Anya. Fred Gray says, oh, don't forget Fred Gray's marvellous walking tour on June the 27th. Please all sign up and come and join us. Gleethorpes Pleasure Island closed in 2016. The site is still up for development and it is derelict. This seems to be a bit of a common occurrence, doesn't it? Excellent set of presentations. Well, everybody's being very kind about all your presentations, so that's all good. Fred says there's a brilliant Tracy Emin version of the Margate Railway at the Emin Tate Modern exhibition. Ah, that's amusement park architecture as art, I suppose. Anya and everybody, okay, one for all three of you. What's your favourite park? Serena, you're going to say Southport, aren't you?
Favourite park? You know, I'm a Disney girl. We love Disney. I know we were all talking about the seaside, but you know, Anya's very right. There's a lot to be learned from the standard of that, and you know, I think we can do that. I think we can mix, you know, the heritage seaside. That's what we try and do at Funland. We try and, you know, the children know what they want, but we bring that little bit of, you know, nostalgia and mix it with something modern.
Excellent. Anya, where's your favourite?
I love riding the Grand National at the Pleasure Beach. I absolutely adore old wooden roller coasters. So if I'm going to ride, it's going to be the Pleasure Beach. However, in terms of what I see as being one of the best parks, is Poulton's, home of Peppa Pig, and I think they are the nearest operators to Disney in the UK for Disney standards. I think what they do is, I'm sorry if anybody from Merlin is here at the moment, but what they do is head and shoulders above what Merlin provide.
Interesting. I might all be heading off to meet Peppa Pig quite soon then. Thankfully, my children have grown out of that. Allan, where would you go? What's your favourite park?
Well, before I come to that, a couple of things. I hope there's not a hog roast at the Peppa Pig land. That might be a bit in for a dig. One of the interesting things was that when Disney was looking to set up the Anaheim, the first Disney, was it Disney World or Disneyland? He actually came to Blackpool. He came to Blackpool to learn how to run an amusement park. That's a key thing. For me, it's the home village that I grew up in the northeast of Scotland at Boyne. Once a year for the Highland Games, the fair would come, and the village green, vast village green, one of the biggest in the country, would be transformed into the Highland Games arena and the fun fair. And I, you know, as a kid, in the evenings, you could look out the window of my bedroom and look at all the rides and all that kind of stuff, and they were amazing. As a grown man, I decided to ride the big one at Blackpool because I thought I'll just get it over and done with. Ride the biggest, fastest, most dangerous, scariest. Did it once, and apart from the cyclone at Coney Island, I've not been on a ride since. I can't say I really particularly enjoy it. I prefer to study them than ride them, I'm afraid. I'm a bit of a coward.
Okay. I'm going to say go and ride the wooden roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach as well, because that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Traumatized has now moved over to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, called Infusion, says Anya. As a common.
Oh, there's one about the circular building in my photographs of
Oh,
Black.
yes. What was
That
that?
well, that was a sort of a tableau creation of a battle between the Monitor and the Merrimack, which was a American Civil War tableau recreation thing. I, yeah, I don't know very much about it at all. That's about
But
it.
it was obviously a fashion at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rachel Ray says Spanish City has a visiting fair every bank holiday. Not the same, but it's how it started. That's Whitley Bay again. And Dan Thompson, maybe we need to try and set something up with you. Or if you've got some way of people getting in touch with you so that they can have a walk around Margate with Dreamland, that would be great. A couple of people saying, oh, look, Dan's put his email in there. If you go to the chat, artistmakers@googlemail.com, and Dan might be able to arrange to show you around, which is very kind of him. Is that someone speaking? Okay. Great Yarmouth, yes. Gosh, there's so many of these to get through. Which is good. But hoppings once a year on Newcastle Town Moor is most people's favourite up in the north. Frontierland at Morecambe was another theme park that failed. Yeah. Happy Mount Park is nice. Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens also apparently an influence on Disneyland. Yeah, and Tivoli Gardens also influenced the Battersea Pleasure Gardens for the Festival of Britain, which I am mentioning because that opened, well, actually the Pleasure Gardens opened a couple of weeks after the main Festival of Britain site on the South Bank in 1951. But just should you be interested, I happen to be doing an online talk about Festival of Britain influences at the Seaside, which was in your last mailing, and Duncan might be able to kindly just put the link in there. But if you look up Catherine Ferry Ticket Source, you'll find it, or me on social media. So yes, the Tivoli Gardens were important, and Dan Thompson says Margate had Tivoli Gardens, Pleasure Gardens as well. I think it was just a big influence on lots of places.
Yeah, Tivoli being the original Roman sort of, well, pleasure
Indeed.
garden, if you like, and then 1843 they opened the Copenhagen one. So it's like one of the pleasure gardens that I was talking about that were in London and in Seaside Resorts. And it's got a fantastic early ride at Tivoli. The other great one to go to is the one at Melbourne, which is the oldest, Melbourne as in Australia, not Derbyshire, which has got the oldest sort of working roller coaster, I think, in the world now.
Wow, maybe we should. Yeah, Blackpool's a bit closer, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
for us, and we want you all to go to the British Seaside, obviously. So have Fred Gray, have Funfairs moved on to Seaside Piers? I mean, there are still rides on piers, aren't there? Around the place. So I think that's probably. Does anybody have anything else they would like to add? I think that's pretty much covered everything, and I apologise if I didn't read out your question, comment. There were a lot which we take to be a very good sign that you have all been listening and hopefully enjoying this afternoon's talks. Really fantastic from all three of our speakers. Thank you very much to Allan, Serena and Anya. As I said at the beginning, we will be back with our next seminar. Go on, you've all got a £5 free to come and listen to Agatha Christie talks. We will make sure it's very entertaining for you all. Do come and join us. We cannot keep going without some financial contribution at some point. We are applying for grants and stuff, but it would really make a big difference to have some financial support as well as your support in actually turning up. We do very much appreciate that. So I think that's probably everything. The session has been recorded, so if you missed anything, you can watch back on our YouTube channel very soon. The links will go up on our website. Thank you very much. Also, come and join us in Saltdean on the 26th of June, and then looking forward to our big day out on the 18th of September. We will be in Scarborough. So northern people, you have no excuse for not coming to say hello and seeing us. And we will be announcing the winners of our bucket and spade list for 2026. The 10 finalists will go out on the 1st of July. So keep a lookout for that and please vote. We hope to see you in person very soon, if not certainly online soon. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for coming, and good night.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Gonna go and make some tea now.
Me too. Thanks, Serena.
Thank you, Serena. That was brilliant. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You too.